Good morning, everybody. What is up? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner. And I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And in 2022 and 2021, reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 dads and fathers around the world. And man, the year is coming to an end. But good morning, Ryan Knight.
Yeah, good day, Dr. Vibe. And for those that don't know who Ryan Knight is, one of the co-founders.
Now, who doesn't?
Yeah, I'm still working on the other billions of people that don't know. I'm one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network.
You love stick your check out, eh? You love stick your chest out, eh?
Entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage their business is in and then help them create a strategy to grow their companies exponentially. I'm also an entrepreneur myself. I do run a company called Detailing Nights. So we provide mobile waterless car cleaning. So we go to people's houses or your office, clean your car on the spot without water, but not so much of it happening today as the weather has started to.
Yes, let's do our Monday ritual before, and there's a number of things we got to catch before we bring up our friend David Archer. So before we go any further, let's do our Monday thing, we like to call it. So this episode of the Morning Vibe is sponsored by the Macmillan Group, providing mortgage solutions, one client at a time since 1999, buying, refinancing, or investing. Call them in Canada, 905-813-4354, US 904-586-5636. Also, we like to show the full regalia, as we say it. There's a U.S., Canada numbers, toll-free North American number website, the McMillanGroupInc.com, and email address raycmcmillan@gmail.com. Way, okay. So, snow.
Yes, it started with some dusting a couple days ago. There were some sprinkles of snow, but yeah. And then some wet rain, like, what do they call that, sleet last night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just doing some multi-purposing here that I as I was getting my almond butter and toasted bread, so I went and opened up the front door and I saw like flakes of snow
Yes.
on the grass and on the front and then on neighboring rooftops. I went, ay. So it begins. Yes. It's coming. Well, apparently, we live close to a city, Buffalo, which always gets hit by snow. Like they get whammed by snow. Yeah. And just south of Buffalo, they're getting a fair, like they're getting it at a foot of snow today.
Oh, yuck. Oh, my gosh.
So what is going on in your world? I haven't seen you online for a week because you couldn't make it on Friday. Friday was epic conversation.
So good.
We were talking it was so good because you weren't here. No,
the conversation was good.
Did you see some of the replay?
No, actually not yet. I gotta go check it.
Okay, well, we had 3 gentlemen on, one from Canada, one from England, and one from the US, talking about Black men and erotic racism.
Oh boy.
It was deep.
Yes.
It was deep. And so one of the panelists was Tamari. We had him on a little while back. Tamari Katosa. And he had a gentleman who's a pastor in England and also a gentleman and I get a little uncomfortable. I don't know. He has a speaking challenge, disability. I don't like using the word disability. What's the
Right.
proper word to use? And this gentleman was incredible. He's actually won a Grammy Award for spoken word.
Solid. Oh wow. Yeah.
And he has a organization called Crip Hop Nation.
Okay.
So it was really good. Yeah, it was a great conversation. Like we had to cut it at an hour and 35 minutes.
Right. Yes.
One of those short conversations. I know a lot of people say, why don't you do everything short? Well, how can you talk about a subject like that in half an hour?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, and just end. Yeah. A lot of times you need space to breathe.
Yeah.
Well,
So that was good. What's been going on in your world?
well, speaking of you going out to get almond butter, so we were able to see each other at Vegan Delights, having a
Yes.
meal. So fully, are they just fully vegan
Yep.
options?
Yep.
So shout out to Lisa that
Was
runs
proud
that.
of you, Ryan. Proud of you.
Yes.
Well, but no, hold on a
Well, they
second.
make it
Oh,
easy
no, no,
because
no,
the
no, no,
food
no,
is
no.
very
Okay, no,
delicious.
no, no. Ryan was there for about 15 minutes. We were there for an hour and a half. When we
No,
left, his food
I
was
was
still.
there at 11:30 because I told Roger that it needed to be earlier because I had a presentation at 1, and the calendar invite wasn't changed. So I had started eating, but my main meal, yes, I had to come back for it. So my
Yeah, but hold
whole
on. What time did you come back? Because when we left, you hadn't
oh,
come
that
back.
was like 3 o'clock. Yeah, because remember we were doing our grant writing group at the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, which also went really well. So we had multiple people there getting to finish their applications, hit submit, get it in.
Was Suzanne there?
Suzanne, no.
Gagnon.
Oh yeah, she was in the office. Yes,
I,
Susan.
Susan, sorry, Suzanne. I thought it was Susan. So my
Maybe it's
apologies.
Suzanne. Yes, but
Suzanne.
so
Okay.
Suzanne's the CEO of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce. So yeah, she was there, but she had to leave to
Belt out.
take
Well,
care of some stuff.
and also, well, a few things we got to catch up on. So let's do some housework. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and subscribe and hit the notification button. Then also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Also follow Ryan Knight and also ACBN on all those platforms too.
Thank you.
Also join the Morning Vibe Discord group because I'm beginning to post replays in that group. So it saves you going and having to scroll through. You just go to the Morning Vibe group, bang.
Yes,
So
yes.
do that. And also more things coming up. Actually, if you remember the Morning Vibe Discord group, Manifa Brooks, who was on a week ago today, who was dropping knowledge about data privacy, or if you're in England, privacy, she provided some tips, some basic tips for solopreneurs, small business individuals when it comes to cybersecurity.
Excellent.
So
Yes.
it's a reason for you to join and then advertise your business product and service on any of the platforms that Dr. Vibe hosts, which Ray McMillan and the McMillan Group and Stefan have been doing for years. Thank you very much. So that's that. And and also too, we have been talking about it with the last week or so, and I know Ryan's going to be after you now. Ryan and I did have an offline conversation to see if we're going to do this grant thing. I'm not a big grant thing, but Ryan and I are talking about doing a grant together, actually two. But him and I, we have to meet this week because I know the deadline for one of them is coming up.
So the Desjardins one, the $20,000 grant, Good Spark grant, that one is due December 3rd. And
Yeah,
then,
so this week, amongst nothing else I have to do,
right,
but it's easy. You said
it's 3 main questions, and when we did the session on Thursday, people were able to get it done in the sitting. So
did,
within
no,
the
did they submit it?
we recorded hitting the submit button, so it in. Yes.
So you know what? So Ryan, I'm gonna speak it now when we're on live.
Yes.
We have to carve out some time, even if it shouldn't take more than 15-20 minutes this week, to get that done. And then what we'll do is we'll report to the Morning Vibe family. It's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
And I started the draft for it, so it's gonna be
okay.
just,
Thank you.
fine tuning it.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated that. So that is happening. Also, want to have a little bit of a sad note. There is a lady who's passed away named Toa Beer. She was known as an
Oh,
event.
whoa. Isn't she young?
Yeah, an event producer, travel TVOs. I had not had a lot of interaction with her. The last time I had interaction with her was maybe about 2 or 3 years ago when the Black Ball, what's it called? I don't go
Oh,
to
the
it.
Diamond Ball or a different
Diamond
one?
Ball. They were
Oh,
having
okay.
their launch event downtown, and she was organizing. And that was the last time I had any sort of conversation. But she died suddenly, or passed suddenly, in the last 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I feel like we've been messaging on LinkedIn just in recent weeks.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's
I found out. I found out that yeah, I just start seeing posts last night. Joan Pierre put a post, and a lot of people putting up posts saying Jonathan Shaw. Yeah, people in Toronto may know these people better than like our global audience, but yeah, passed away, transitioned.
oh man, that's rough.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. So rest in power, Toa
yeah, and our
Beer,
heart was with her family
and
and
her
their
family,
family.
condolences to her
Mm.
family. So let's say hello to some of our family. Ched C is in the house. Dr. Tachi's in the house. Dr. Tachi's here, and I'm also meeting with her later with somebody. So she's in the house. Dr. Tachi, oh, I got to say thing too. She says, snow. Yeah, well, you're in Fort Lauderdale. So what do you, don't even come to us with this snow and question mark. And also says, Friday conversation was stellar. Yes. Also, Dr. Tachi. So on Saturday night, prime time Saturdays with, yeah, so many things go on in my alleged mind. Aisha and Lala, Dr. Tachi jumped in, and Dr. Alicia Watkins jumped in.
Okay, solid, solid.
And so usually when we do our pre-production, we had about 5 topics. We only hit 3, and I said 3 was more than enough. It was 2 hours, and there were 3 topics. We talked about AI, the impact of AI, especially
Right.
with what's gone on with OpenAI and Microsoft over the last few weeks.
Yeah, they fired Sam Altman,
Yeah, but
and
he's
then
back.
Microsoft hired him.
Hired, but
So,
no, he is back because here's this is we haven't done one of our open things in a while, but the employees at OpenAI said, look, if you don't bring Sam back, we're quitting.
wow, that these people.
And there's a lot, and the funny thing is the good and bad. The great stuff is that we're booked basically for the rest of the year. But next time we have an open, we have to talk. And it was nice. And I'm gonna tell people, go to the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube, watch the replay of that conversation, especially Dr. Tachi and Dr. Alicia Watkins are professors. So they talked about the impact of AI from an educational lens.
Yes, yes. Ah.
It was amazing. And there is something potentially big coming from Saturday night's conversation that I'm working back channel wise with Dr. Alicia. So there something potentially could be happening before the end of the year that would be, unfortunately, that doesn't usually happen in Canada, but that's a whole other
Hey,
conversation.
wherever it needs to happen, let
Wherever
it
it
happen.
happens, it happens. So Dr. Tachi says, oh, Ryan is also now the Grant King. Oh, he
Right.
has always been
I
the
don't.
Grant
I don't
King.
need a cape and crown for that. Yes.
And from Ottawa, Leslie
Yeah,
McEwen, always a
Leslie.
pleasure, and great to have you here today, Leslie. Again, this conversation is definitely in your wheelhouse. Fitness IQ Cam says, morning, everyone. Yes, and Fitness IQ Cam, man, I must be your accountant. She always sending me pictures of
Good,
her
good.
newest
Yes.
creations, and that's another thing too. Energy Shack Juice Bar has moved officially.
Right, right,
Now
right.
it's in 1970 elsewhere. I'm planning to get there either today or tomorrow because I want to buy some granola. I need another supply of my gluten-free rye bread. I also need to get some almond butter. And I'm planning to go and do another 3-day detox in the next 2 weeks.
Excellent. Keep pushing. I love it.
What about you? Keep pushing. What about
Why
you?
it's a new year, so you can do your detox, but I'm letting our Christmas festivities and all that end, and then I'm gonna do another detox. But for now, yes. But we will be testing out the vegan delights whole bowl lunches for the week. So gonna be going out there, getting a 5-day supply so that'll become my new lunch instead of Popeyes and McDonald's and Burger King. So we'll make that shift.
So hard. Oh, so Fitnets IQ Cam, otherwise known as KSEYLRWFQ, says Dr. Vibes Angels. I don't know if I'm an yeah, okay. She says LOL, and then she says, "Oh, I have to show you my newest meal." LOL. Okay, see, yeah, she made gluten-free pancakes on the weekend.
Okay.
And also keep pushing, Ryan. Keep pushing. Come on.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so this is so a lot of things going on. It's just like I was up till about 2:00 in the morning last night and just like pushing, but having a lot of fun. But we're happy to have you all here. So let's get to our friend. He is here. What is this you're putting up from Saturday? You all had the black ladies all in one place. What place? Oh, they were at Buchan. Oh, on Friday night it was at Sugarcane Restaurant again.
Okay.
There was a get together. There were some people I hadn't seen in a long time, like Sean Morissette I hadn't seen in a long time.
Right.
Oh, there was a pile of Ian Andre Espinay. Hadn't seen him in a long time. Okay. All right. Let's get him on because this food, my gosh. Well, so maybe I guess there's something called food trauma. Is there something like that called that, David?
Food trauma.
Do you know if there's, I mean, James Earl? No, sorry. I mean, David, is there something called food trauma?
No, well, that's probably if someone's like making some Jamaican food and not putting the right amount of seasoning in it. I think that would be my food trauma because
or not washing the chicken before they cook it.
You understand?
The debate still rages on, and the internet is.
Oh my goodness! Well, welcome, David. How are we doing this morning?
I'm blessed and doing my best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how are things been going on in your world?
Things are good. It's just my son. He's now he's I think it's 16 or 17 months because of that. Again, I'm still sleep deprived, so it still feels as if time is moving in this strange way. He has a fever, so he's staying at home. So me and my partner are taking turns making sure that he's going to be okay. And it's interesting being a parent where it's like we have every profession. So I'm a nurse, an educator, a therapist sometimes. But it's just that we're doing our best to just make sure that he's doing all right. He didn't sleep that well, so it means that nobody slept that well. So we're all in it together. So that's it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry. We won't keep you on too long today because I know you have a hard stop at a certain time. We are not going to go past that. And Ryan can only be here till the top of the hour. I know we'll probably go a little bit further. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a thing right here, right now. Just go to this. So Frequency Event Promotions has a sale now on pull-up retractable banners. A great product, great quality, and the price is only $149 plus applicable taxes. It's a limited time offer, so buy now. So that is that. And also a little thing about Frequency Event Promotions, and I will put it here. If you email and say Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight, see, I can't go anywhere without Ryan. He's the star, right? Send receipt, and you'll see $25 off any additional service, t-shirts, hoodies, business cards. So you can either do it via email, sales@frequencyeventpromotions.com, or 647-317-2170 extension 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also going to put that across all the platforms that people are watching this. Take advantage of that. So just want to make sure that people are doing their thing. So what a boring topic today. What is trauma?
Boring topic. No.
Yes, I think I'm going to get up and leave. I thought I was going to get up and leave.
I want your audience to be excited to hear me talk.
Okay. Well, David, can kick it off, and we'll
Let's
just
do
fill
it.
in, and also our audience will join in as we go along the journey. So go for it.
Fantastic. So again, I think that this is a topic that is actually very exciting for me. I think the reason why is because it's something that we don't necessarily speak about, but it's something that to varying degrees everybody goes through. And as a psychotherapist, my job is to help to make things that are unconscious a little bit more conscious for people. And I take great pleasure in not only being able to explain that there are some things that we need to pay attention to, but also helping people to heal from these things as well. My greatest inspiration is my clients. I've seen some people who believed that they would never be able to recover. And because they have been able to recover, I feel that it's part of my purpose now, is just to make it so that other people know that they can heal, and that their lives are not just defined by the suffering that has happened to them. So you might see, I don't know if it says it on the screen, but I often explain that I'm an anti-racist psychotherapist, but also that I'm a specialist in treating what's called complex and racial trauma. And although I've appeared on this show a few times and may have spoken about this, I want to just make sure the people that don't know who I am, that they know that this is the thing that we specialize in. Of just knowing that there are certain types of traumas that impact people because of how the society sees them. So there are certain people that are going to experience what we will call gendered violence because of their gender. People will experience racial trauma because of their race. And again, because of the political context that we find ourselves in, there are some people that will come to meet with me because they're Middle Eastern, because they're Jewish, because they're gay, because they're trans, depending on what's happening in the society, depending on what's happening in our dialogue. And so that's why this is something that I feel very strongly about, of just knowing that people's identities matter, and also the specific problems they bring to the therapy also is important, and also of knowing that everybody deserves to feel well, everyone deserves to recover, and knowing that we have the technology to do it is something that makes me smile and makes me optimistic about the future of what we're able to do.
Solid. And I was curious because I know trauma is like a broad scope. So was there a specific lane? Like, was it going to be about Black trauma, or are you kind of giving that overview of trauma on a whole? Because that's typically the underlying cause of, people not being able to be comfortable in their skin.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because I find that when I was learning about how to be a therapist in school, and I studied in social work. I did a master's there. I did a master's in marriage and family therapy, and they would explain about the problems that people have, mental health issues. But I felt that it was mostly outside of school, meeting with the clients and meeting with the people, speaking to people on a regular basis, that I started to see the importance of addressing trauma rather than just the diagnosis that someone is given, of trying to find out what it is that happened to them that made them have the diagnosis. When you start to ask these questions of people, like a person who's depressed, if you ask them, they're going to tell you, my depression started after my divorce. My depression started after my parents' divorce, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the more that I speak to people, I was finding out, like, instead of us trying to fit people into a diagnostic label, what happens if we can find a way of being able to heal the inciting force, the first thing that happened, or even the accumulation of things that happened that led them to then have these other symptoms? And as I started to look into it, I started to realize that not only was it that much of my education was not necessarily trauma informed. There were, of course, some awesome professors that I did have, but most of it was not necessarily focusing on the etymology. Then I also realized they weren't focusing on the identity, and they also weren't focusing on the identity of the therapist as well. So every time I was going to classes, there would be that one PowerPoint slide that's going to say, okay, now we're going to talk about cultural competence. Now we're going to talk about how to do therapy with Black people. And it was very interesting because I was like, well, you guys have always been teaching me about intercultural therapy because I've always been attending the classes and knowing that as a Black person and knowing that you guys are talking about white people. So then they'd get this slide where I'd be like, oh, this is how I work with myself. Like it was just very interesting where the Eurocentric perspective clouds us from not being able to understand that the people who are learning these things may not be European descent, and the people that we need to work with may not be this as well. So I realized that not only is it that I had to expand from that one slide of cultural competence, and instead thinking differently about it, I needed to think about how to make our therapy responsive instead of being culturally competent. It's about cultural responsiveness. It's not about just trying to learn about Black people. Like most times when a Black person is going to go to therapy, they're not like asking the white therapist, did you get that certificate that says you can talk to Black people? Like it doesn't happen.
Exactly. Right.
We just want to have a therapist who's going to have a good heart. We just want to have
David,
a therapist who's going to.
Dave, I need to jump in here.
Yes,
so
fine.
what is David Archer's definition of trauma?
It's the presence of suffering and the absence of compassion. That's the simplest way of being able to explain what it is. The presence of suffering is going to be something happened to you and it caused enough stress to exceed your threshold of what you're able to handle. The absence of compassion is, let's say, for example, with children, it happens through neglect. So it's that you wanted someone to be there and they weren't there. It was the absence that even though nothing happened to you, or like it wasn't like a physical impact, it was maybe like the weight of the void of the person's presence that also hurts as well. So so what I'm saying is that some people will have those more than others. On Friday, your talk with the three gentlemen was amazing.
Thank you.
About,
hold on a second. How with a sick son and lack of sleep did you make time to watch any of that?
I'm a person who has a strong sense of spirituality, and so I pray. I pray. This is what gets me through his fever nights. I pray. All the resources that I teach my clients, I use for myself. So with the strength of the ancestors, I'm able to do these things. And also, you told me to watch it, and I'm a man of my word. Dr. Vibe, I'm a man of my word.
I suggested you watch it. I don't tell people. I suggest.
I'm a man of integrity.
Okay. Thank you for the compliment and taking the time. Appreciate it. And I'm glad that you enjoyed the conversation.
Yes. It's because especially he spoke about triple consciousness. He's talking about W.B. Du Bois's idea of double consciousness, which is when, as a Black man, we need to know about our Blackness. And then we live in an environment of white supremacy / insecurity. And then we have to know about white people as well. And I think we and Ryan, we spoke about this maybe a few months back, is that because as Black people, we are oppressed by a society that says whiteness is more important than Blackness. We know white people better than white people know themselves. It's like we have to know how they interact and how they'll respond to certain types of things. You know what I mean? So that's like the double consciousness of like, we know Black culture, we code switch sometimes to get into white culture. So then we're not harmed by social structures. But then the gentleman was talking about the triple consciousness, where if you're disabled or if you have a disability, it's that you also need to think of how able-bodied people are going to be thinking about things. Or he was more talking about how the Black community invisibilizes Black people with disabilities in a similar way how Black people are invisibilized by a white society that privileges whiteness. So no, I'm telling you,
yeah, you know what? I bet you wish you were in that conversation.
Yo, you gotta let me know. You gotta let me know, man. You gotta let me know what's going on.
Because so that's why I'm working on an introduction between yourself and Tamari and those other gentlemen. But there's my mind, alleged mind is always thinking. So there's something we're going to talk about offline in regards to that, because there's something potentially very powerful that could come from that. But
fantastic.
I interject, sorry. And just on Instagram Live, Triple Threat System, good morning. And your new business venture, I don't know what it is. And also Scotian with the Potion. You're on Instagram, but why don't you just come over to YouTube, both of you? It's all right. No problem. Sorry to interject, David. Continue on.
No problem. So again, just to continue that, we need to understand that trauma is also subjective as well as it's being an objective thing. So the capital letter T traumas that we're going to think about, these are things that generally across cultures, we're going to agree that these are traumatic things. So like surviving a car accident, you know, um, sexual violence, things that like are clearly traumatic that everyone's going to be like, yo, that's some messed up stuff, or yo, that's pretty intense what happened. But I find that what is often overlooked is what we call the small letter T traumas. These are the things that many people don't even consider as being traumatic, but the individual that I'll speak to will say, well, that time I got lost in a mall, or that time when I was bullied, that time when that person touched my hair and I didn't want them to touch my hair. Like, these are things that not every culture and not every group is going to universally recognize, but it's what the person's nervous system recognizes as being a life threat, or what the person's nervous system recognizes as being abandoned. And the interesting thing is, when we have this accumulation of traumatic experiences, we learn lessons about what our lives, the worth of our lives, and also the function of ourselves in our society and all these things. When we have enough of these racial microaggressions, we start to then think, well, this is what it means for me to be a Black person. But I also need to speak, because it's not just about trauma, it's also about recovery, is that when we heal from the impact of the lessons that have been installed because of the suffering, then we get to be able to determine what it means for us to be a Black man, what it means for us to be a strong Black woman, what it means for us to be a person who's worthy and also has their inherent dignity and respect just acknowledged from day one. So it's really to say that it's not just, I don't want to just talk about trauma, because we can't, that's only talking about one side of the coin, is that we also need to speak about the fact that all people can heal and recover from these things. And I do have to just mention as well that it's not enough for us to just tell people, just go to therapy. If you go to therapy, everything's going to be fine. It's not enough. We also need to think about the importance of developing our own psychotherapies that are for Black people and by Black people. And that's the reason why I've developed my own. And that's the reason why I'm working hard at being able to make connections with people that are across states and boundaries. I'm going to say less because things are one, but really just to say that we need to think about how do we make it so that there's more access to therapies that will benefit us, the people, like, so that we're not just looking for that one PowerPoint slide in a presentation and praying that a white institution is going to say that our trauma matters. We need to take it into our own hands, and we need to develop our own theories. And the good thing is that we have a lot of strong ancestors' shoulders that we're able to use as support. And I'm not the first anti-racist psychotherapist, and I'm betting that I'm not going to be the last. There's a lot of interest in this. Another key thing, there's so much to say. Another thing is that I'm flying to the University of Michigan in January next month. Oh, the month after, sorry, my sleep deprivation. And I'm going to be giving a presentation for the Martin Luther King Symposium.
Congratulations.
And, yeah. And again, this is because we as Black people, we need to know that we have knowledge. The theories that I'm all saying, the double consciousness and all that stuff, all of us know this. It's just that we didn't use the scientific terms. Like, you know, many of my theories came up because I was in the kitchen talking to my mother and my brother, and we're just talking about what it's like to be a Black Jamaican second generation, you know? So just know, like, that's why I want to do this, not to just talk about me being exceptional. I'm just a representation of the awesomeness that's within everyone else as well.
Okay, Ryan, I know you don't have a lot of time.
Oh, for real?
No. You're gonna stay with me past Ryan.
Yes.
But Ryan, and if you don't have any questions, Dr. Tachi has a question if you want. Or
yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so Dr. Tachi asks, how does one heal from trauma effectively?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I think that so going back to what I was talking about is that what happens with trauma is that the nervous system is making a response. So we have this thing called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's not the only part of our body, but it's an important part of the nervous system that mediates the response or the release of cortisol. So cortisol is the stress response hormone. Let me just say it in straight English, because I know that it said Dr. Tachi, so I wanted to make sure that I was going to speak the same language. So the thing is that we want to just make sure that we know that the trauma that a person's experiencing is not just something that's in their head. Their body is actually responding in a way that is reacting in a way that maybe resembles like a fight, a flight, or freeze response. So it's a survival-based response that, again, it doesn't matter what it is that's happening externally. The body's responding as if it's like a saber-toothed tiger is gonna bite you. Like, we learned these from our ancestors, and these ways of defending are things that helped our ancestors to survive, to make it so that all of us are enjoying this conversation, participating in it, listening to it, etc. So what we need to do then is we need to know that words are not enough to heal from trauma. Okay. If a saber-toothed tiger is running after, even you imagining it, I don't know if any of you guys have a vivid imagination like me. I also write science fiction, so my imagination is pretty powerful. But the thing is that if someone really believes that there's a life threat that's out there, just talking to them in a rational way is not always going to be able to calm them. What helps people to heal from trauma effectively is experiences. So if a person's able to imagine that they're able to vacuum up that saber-toothed tiger or make it disappear, or they can, I don't know, put it in a cage or something like that, then they're using the power of their imagination to alter what is taking place. The approach that I've developed is called the rhythm and processing technique, which is really called the RAP technique. And by using the RAP technique, we're able to use that infinite creativity that is there to reconsolidate the way how these memories are stored, so that they don't harm people anymore. When a memory is reconsolidated, when you try to access it, it no longer brings up the same fight or flight response anymore. When you try to access it, knowing that you're calm in the present, and then knowing that the trauma has been appropriately put back in the file cabinet of where it needs to be, when you try to bring it up to awareness, it no longer leads to the same negative belief. It no longer leads to the same physiological reaction. And ultimately, it gets dealt with once and for all. And this is what I do. And this is what other people are able to do. And that's why I train therapists to do this and provide consultations for them.
Because would you say that that's like it's disconnecting that connection of the event to the emotions that were triggered? Like that, exactly. Like you're putting it somewhere else that it doesn't have that same connection. Like, I'm curious how that
sure.
works. That sounds
sure. I know so. This is why I said Dr. Vibe. It's exciting. It's exciting to talk about. There's so much for me to speak about. So look, let me just quickly say it, because I know you don't got a lot of time. But
Ryan doesn't. We got a while, but
okay.
just be yourself. Do your thing, brother. Yes. Do your thing.
Yes. So there's a process called memory reconsolidation. It's really just to say that when we access a memory from the past, so let's say that it was traumatic, what typically is going to happen is that if you access this memory, you're going to feel as if it's front and center, even if it happened a decade ago. You're going to feel stressed. You'll remember the shirt that the person was wearing, what time it was when it happened, all that stuff. But if I ask you, what did you eat for supper like 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, you're probably going to be like, I don't even know what this person's even talking about. I don't even remember that. It's like, it'll be a blur, unless it was something that was very delicious, or unless it was, like, as I told you, Jamaican food that's not properly spiced. Then it'll probably come up in your mind. You'll remember that, that thing was terrible. But what we're trying to do is we are trying to make it so that the traumatic memories in the past are stored away like other long-term memories that are not really relevant for our survival, or not really relevant in any way, shape, or form. And the way how we do this is by changing what the mind expects when it accesses the memory, and providing something that I call overturning information. So in my therapies, just even last week, there's a client that I was meeting with. They were accessing a trauma. They were also very spiritual, believer in the Bible. And in our sessions, we were able to bring up that faith, the love that they have for their spirituality. And when they expect that they're going to feel the stress from the trauma, we focus in on the awesome feeling. And then we access the trauma, we focus in on the awesome thing. Access the trauma, focus in on the awesome thing. What that does is it destabilizes the way how the memory is stored. And with enough repetitions, we challenge the emotional learning that's underlying the trauma. And then the trauma gets updated with the information of knowing that in the present, I'm feeling good. I'm listening to my spiritual hymn or my psalm. I'm feeling all right. So maybe that thing in the past wasn't so bad. Accessing the spiritual hymn, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. So wait, maybe this is something that I did survive. And then the brain starts to update it. And then it starts to say, okay, well, this thing is not as relevant anymore, knowing that I'm here, knowing that I'm alive, knowing that I'm blessed and doing my best. And then it gets logged away, and then it's harder to access the memory. It becomes appropriately stored the way how it's meant to be. This is how we effectively deal with traumatic experiences. And what I'm suggesting is this is the way to appropriately deal with other mental health stresses as well. When we come from a trauma-informed lens, when we come from a racial trauma-informed lens, then we're able to change the world forever.
Gotcha.
You know, David, just listening to you there, one of the many things I love about you is that, first of all, you're passionate about this.
Thank you.
Not only in yourself, but through yourself. But you, for me at least, you make it very understandable.
Cool.
Like,
thank you. That's really a compliment. It's a good compliment.
You know, because I could see myself walking in little Jamaica, and they say, "What this man do?" And you could explain it to them, they would get it.
Yeah, man. Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So that's how I feel. I don't know what the rest of the audience, but that's how I feel. Ryan, any more questions, comments? Because I've got a few, but again, your time is
over. Go ahead. That one, yeah.
So David, let me ask from a Black lens. Have you? Well, okay. I think one question: the recognition of Black trauma has increased, especially obviously George Floyd. But hasn't it always been a facet of most Black people's lives in the world? Trauma.
Well, so now I got to unpack this because there's so
much.
All
right.
There's so much to say on this. Is that just know that this is I'm going to segue, but I'll be right back. Okay, we're going to take a little U-turn. Let me take an exit, and then I'm going to come back on.
But before, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
So people are agreeing. Fitness IQ Graham says yes, agree, understandable, and she also says soothing. And
thank you.
Wayne Harris says David Archer is the man.
Right back at you. Right back at you.
All right. So I'll let you continue there. Go ahead.
Right back at you. So it's just to say that unfortunately what happens sometimes, and it's not everyone's fault, sometimes what happens in Black History Month is, and I'm saying this because I bought a book for my son. My son is going to be the most woke child ever, because the thing is, there's all these books now. When I was younger, there weren't these books that showed Black people, actually. When I was younger, children's books, I didn't really see Black people represented in any way that was positive for when I was younger. But now there's like books that teach children about loving their hair. There's this great book called Ours, and it's just this book showing Black melanated children looking in the mirror, loving themselves. And so this is his favorite book because there's this little like reflective surface that's in it. So I'm reading the book to him and showing him his face and showing my face. Anyways,
nice.
The reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes what happens in Black History Month is we get into this ordinal classification, which is the realm of white supremacy / insecurity, and also is the realm of the Eurocentric model. It'll start to say, this is the first Black mathematician. This is the first Black astrophysicist. This is the first Black. And I'm like, yo, but this is weird because those pyramids, I don't know, they were building those pyramids out in the sun. Those people could not have been as white as the snow that's outside in Buffalo, as you guys are talking about. Like, those people had to have been, they at least had to have had a tan. And also it seems as if it's very complex and complicated to build a pyramid. So it makes me think, well, these had to have been people that knew about stuff and maybe mathematics and arithmetic. And it turns out that even some of like the theories, if you hear about like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, they didn't invent all of those out of nowhere. Some of these people studied in those Egyptian mystery schools. So this makes me think, and also Egypt is not the first place to have built those types of structures and those philosophies. Again, it's just representative of the knowledge that was in Africa. Anyways. The reason why I'm saying all this is because we get hung up sometimes on the idea of saying the first Black. And if we start only from slavery, then it's going to seem as if our experience is just suffering. If we start only from the place of chattel slavery and say that this is the beginning of our existence, we're going to forget the fact that slavery has just been an interruption on much more than several thousand-year history of who we actually are. So our history cannot only be suffering. As Black people, that's the challenge of talking about anti-racism, is that we can focus only on the trauma. We also need to focus on the fact that we're still here. If we're still here, despite all of those attempts that were systemic and intense, the violence, the laws that they carried us in these boats and all these things, it means that there's some awesomeness that also our ancestors gave us as well. They didn't just give us the stress response system to respond to saber-toothed tigers. They gave us the ability to still love ourselves, despite the fact that of everything that we've been through, and to still come up with these theories, to still come up with Ryan's with his entrepreneurship, Dr. Vibe with your entrepreneur mentality, helping all the people. We still here. So I do want to say that, yes, trauma is a part of being a human, that there is going to be difficulties that we experience. But this ability to love ourselves is also an even greater important part of our humanity as well.
Okay. Some other comments.
Yes.
Dr. Tachi says, your son has no choice but to be woke.
There's no choice. He's going to be awoke, except he was asleep. He was able to get a nap. That's how he came down here, which is a miracle.
All right. Fitness IQ Camp says, you have to check out Heezy. And then, I don't know who that is. And she says, listen, the pyramids are breathtaking.
Yeah.
And Dr. Tachi says, yes, that's why you teach Black folks about Imhotep.
Yes.
Imhotep.
There we go. That's knowledge.
The father of mathematics. Let Ryan, anytime you want to jump in, I have lots of conversation pieces. Hey, Jamil Cruz. Speaking about Buffalo, Jamil Cruz, a prolific content podcast creator from Buffalo. It's on Instagram Live. So you're getting snow today, Jamil. I hope you are prepared. So just here on it, doing a little bit of Instagram Live, main on other platforms, where myself and Ryan Knight are speaking with anti-racist psychotherapist Dave Archer about what is trauma on the Morning Vibe. And a Frequency Event Promotion says, thanks for breaking that piece down. I have another conversation piece. You have clients from all different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, correct?
Yes. Well, most of them.
Okay. And I don't, of course, it depends, obviously, client privacy here. How is non-Black trauma different than Black trauma? Is there anything different?
No, because race is made up. Race isn't real. It's not a real thing. It's just that the way how it impacts a person's personality is different. Let me explain it in this way. We have a social structure that's going to say that white people are more important than Black people. Okay. We have a social structure too that says that men are more important than women. We also have one that says straight people are more important than trans people. However, if we go to China, okay, if we go to a different country where white people are not like the most or the majority of the people in the country, they'll still have racial trauma. If we ask like a person who's like a Uyghur Muslim, they're probably going to have like similar processes in terms of how they've been delegitimized in a similar way that a Black person would have it as well. This is why we need to, and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, this is why they widen the scope of saying that it's not just civil rights, this is a human rights issue, is that that racism is linked with colonialism. We need to widen our perspective and know that the same enemy that's going to attack us based on racism is the same enemy that's going to attack others based on the goals of capitalism. These things are very similar. I say this because, of course, white people, and I need to explain as well, because there may be some people like, what? How could you possibly say this? And it's because I have an opinion, and everyone has an opinion. It's okay to have one. But it's really that white people also internalize their own racial trauma, but it doesn't look the same as Black people. So let me say it in this way, is that anorexia nervosa is something that affects more white people than Black people, generally because it seems as if it's the white body ideal. So the white woman, which is, again, affected by patriarchy, is affected differently in terms of they need to have a certain type of body structure that Black women don't necessarily always need to conform to. Let me say that in another way. Older white men are the most likely to commit suicide when they're older. And I believe it's in part due to the fact that they've been privileged their entire lives. When they get to a certain age, then after the society says you're now disabled. And you spoke about how people become invisibilized when they're disabled.
Yes.
So then the society says, now as a white man, now you have a disability. Well, in this case, it is now like, it's okay if you're not here. It's okay if you're invisible. And so white men across the globe have higher rates of suicidality than older Black men, because the way how they are racialized, the way how they experience race and racism is different from a Black person. The reason why it's similar is because the way of being able to treat gendered violence and the effects of it are the same ways how you treat racial violence and the effects of it as well. So that's why the process that I use was meant to address how anti-Black racism is hurting us, who are the marginalized, as Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth, the colonized.
Fanon, people need to read his stuff, family. You need to read that stuff.
Yeah.
Why was it? He's gonna go.
Copies right here, man.
Yes.
Yes.
So look, the thing is that I realized that in doing an approach that could help Indigenous people, in doing an approach that could help Black people, in doing an approach that is able to help the people who have been marginalized the worst, or that the society is seeing as being wretched, I then found a way of being able to help most of the women that I meet with and the non-binary clients that I meet with who've also been marginalized along that spectrum. And in doing it and in helping those people, I'm also able to help the white men, white people as well, that also feel as if they're not living up to the standard that's saying that they need to be perfect all the time, or saying that they're at the top of the ladder. But as I must have said a few other times, I've never met a white man who believed they were at the top of the ladder. Even though the society is built from them, they still will experience these stresses.
Interesting.
And even as rich as a white person can be, they still need a therapist. So that's the reason why we know the society that's built on making a hierarchy of saying one person's worth more than another is going to harm everybody. Because once you have comparison, you're creating a lack of self-esteem in one person. And once you have a society that says white supremacy, it's fearful of losing power, which is why white supremacy is white insecurity as well.
All
So
right.
I hope
Go
that's
ahead.
clear.
Go ahead.
But I'm curious around, so now, is it helpful to get a person to understand that, let's say race is a construct, so it's not real,
Yes.
but it was still created, so we have to deal with living in this type of society.
Yes.
So is it more so understanding that that's fake, or understanding how to now live in that society?
Okay, just before you answer that, David, I'm going to just stop it on Instagram Live. For those who are watching on replay, if you want to catch the full conversation, go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe show, and you'll be able to see the whole thing. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourselves grace. God bless, peace, well, keep the faith.
Peace.
All right, David, go for it.
Yeah, so Ryan, you said two different questions there. Could you please rephrase it? I just want to make sure that I understand.
Yeah, so I was thinking, is it more helpful understanding that race is fake and a social construct, or is it more important understanding how to deal with it and live in it, because it was great. Yeah,
great. The best thing about being human is we can multitask. We can walk and chew bubblegum, and I think both of these things are true. I don't think that we need to, because again, the ordinal classification is to say who's first place. You know, back in the day for YouTube posts, you'd see people put first, You know, like the first comment would always be first. I'm the first person to post.
Oh yeah.
If it's important, it's like, who cares? Everyone's going to watch it anyways. But it's because we're raised in a society that oftentimes, like, depending on a person's performance, who's the fastest, who's the strongest, then it becomes more important. So to answer your question is that we need to know it's fake. The reason why is because in the talk that was on Friday, it was interesting to hear the gentleman speaking about racial trauma I believe he is from the UK, but his discussion of it was so similar to what we experience in Canada. So it's weird that he has a different accent than I do. He's like he's 5 hours, I think, ahead in the future.
Yeah, you like that, the future. Yeah. So that's why I love having people from
Yes.
over things. At least there is a future. They're
Yes,
talking ahead
that's
of
what
us,
he said.
right?
That's it.
It was actually, yes, there you go.
Yeah. So the thing is that even though, in this culture, some people may say that my English is not good enough because of my Blackness. He's speaking with British English. Like, is someone really going to say that he's not speaking English properly? But because it's fake and it doesn't really matter, the criticism can apply to me and apply to all Black people that we don't speak English well. Okay. So that's why it's fake. It doesn't make any sense. And also it changes depending on the time. The example of that is the fact that there were immigration laws in the United States in the early 20th century that were discriminatory against Italians, Greeks, Poles, of course, Jewish people, etc. But many of these people now, they kind of look as if they're white. So they're not discriminated against in the same way. But because of the political needs at the time and because of the structure of the society, we were then able to say that whiteness is only this. But then the demographics change, and then the political interests change, and then they expand whiteness. That means it's fake. It means that we can just make a decision and be like, yo, you know what? Some South Americans are starting to increase in the United States. Some of them are a little lighter than the other ones, so let's just bring them into whiteness.
Jeez.
Again, this is something that has happened. They've done this with different groups of people. Yes.
So Ryan, you've got to go soon.
Oh man, I didn't get to the other part.
And Frequency Event Promotion says, great question, Ryan. Ryan, anything you want to add on or anything?
Yes.
David, you want to add on before?
If David can finish your thought, and then I'll hop off.
Yeah, so we need to know that it's fake because there are too many people who believe that their suffering is their destiny. There are too many people. There are too many people who come into my office and they say, I'm broken. It's false. It's not true. There are too many people who believe that as a Black person, they should remain the figment of a white person's imagination. This is false. Right. This is not true. At the same time, we have to be able to make a priority that anti-racism is not just fighting against the oppressor. It's also healing from the suffering that we've internalized as well. We can walk and chew bubblegum. We got to know that this is a game that is played, that it's not real, of saying that a Black person is not as skilled because of the reflection of the light on their skin. It's ridiculous. It's made up. These are made up concepts. Yes. And at the same time, we have to make it our responsibility to heal from this so that we don't continue the suffering of the internalized racism. Because if that seed is poisoned and if we don't take the roots out of that insecurity, then we will just bear the fruit of the suffering from the oppressor. So we have to challenge that at all costs and at all times.
100%. Appreciate that, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
I do have to jump, but
no problem, Ryan. We'll catch up later. All right. Be well. All the best to you and the family and the team, man.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Good stuff. Yeah, so we got some more time here. So
let's go.
Comments are flying in as always. So Opal Inspired says, so I think so important for children to see ourselves in positive imagery. Dr. Archer, the issue of transference is a big part of trauma. Can you speak to this?
Yes, but I'm not a doctor. Okay. I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, okay. So say David, right? We'll come back to that question because I want to do the comments first. Frequency Event Promotion says Fitness IQ is speaking of trauma educator, author, entrepreneur Hezi, who echoes a lot of what David speaks. Cool. Egypt. Hezi would be a great future or immediate guest for the Morning Vibe. Well, get him to contact me or let's do the introductions for me. I'm not City Pulse. As I say in Toronto, I'm not everywhere.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Tachi, I have the wretch earth of the earth as well.
Wicked. Yes. Yes.
I got an idea. We're gonna come up to. I got an alleged idea coming up right here. So let me just catch with the comments. Hey Hayden, what's going on? I'm going to need to watch and rewatch this show a few times to absorb all the amazing information.
Thank you.
Dr. Tachi here says, our agreement of its worth. Don't know where that comes up, but she has a question. You know what? I'm feeling so morning vibe show fan. Do you think we should have Dr. Tachi and David on together on a morning vibe? I think it may be a good idea. So I agree that race is a social construct and therefore not real, but doesn't it become real because people agree that it is a real thing? Like with currency, its worth is our agreement it is. Or I think what you would say, our agreement of its worth. That's, I think, what you wanted to update what you were saying.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So
respond.
there was another question about transference. You want me to do this
one?
Yeah,
okay. Let's do the transfers first. And it's not Dr. Archer.
Sure, transference is a big part of trauma. Can you speak to this? So I can only understand it based on the comment that I saw, but I can only explain it based on how I understand what you're trying to say. Okay, so you may be meaning this, but you may not.
And if not, clarify it in the comments.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So first we need to understand what transference is and also what countertransference is. So I'm going to give some general ideas, and I'm not a psychodynamic therapist, so don't at me. Don't get mad at me because I'm different. Okay, I'm looking at these things from a different perspective. But generally speaking, transference is going to be, I'm the therapist, I meet a client. The client is going to have certain types of feelings and certain types of thoughts based on me because who knows, maybe my blackness, who knows, maybe my maleness. You know, I've had some clients that would come to meet with me, and they would come to meet with me because they're working through a conflict they have about Black men at some unconscious level, but they chose me specifically because they wanted to work through that with me. So that can sometimes go well, and that can sometimes go terribly, because then if you're not ready to talk to a Black man, then you may need to do some work before. Okay. So transference is going to mean that there's certain types of responses a person is going to have, certain types of thoughts that they will have because of the service provider. Countertransference, which is one of my favorite topics, is going to mean that because this person is different from me, or because they are triggering things within me, I'm also going to have a response to them. It's almost like the counterbalance to the transference or the opposite response. So I don't think that it should really be called counter. Again, don't get upset at me, but it's because I believe it's initiated by the therapist. It doesn't always depend on the client. I think that is something that comes up from the therapist. If we're in a social structure that's going to say that I'm a Black man and this is what Blackness means, and then I have a client that's a white person and this is what whiteness means, it's possible that a Black therapist can feel as if they're going to let certain clients get away with things that they wouldn't let other Black clients get away with. So countertransference is just talking about how the identity of the client can sometimes impact what it is that I'm going to do in my session, and sometimes leads to what, unfortunately, many of my clients experience, which is racial microaggressions by the therapist towards the client. So they see a client who has a different race than them, and they're going to say something or do something in a way that makes it so that the client drops out of their therapy and then messages me saying, please, I need anti-racist therapy. Okay, so anyways, that's what countertransference and transference is that transference is going to be these feelings that come up from the client based on the context of meeting with the therapist. Countertransference sometimes can be a response to that, but it's especially that it comes up from the therapist. I hope that clarifies.
Well, Opal, sorry, I hope you're still watching. If there's anything, if it's clear to you, or if it isn't, please put in the comments. It's a deep question, but we have good deep people here. So
fantastic.
Just want to share it with people. Again, you are watching the Morning Vibe with myself. Ryan had to leave, and we're sharing with anti-racist psychotherapist David Archer about what is trauma and other topics on the Morning Vibe. Let's see, before we get, and Opal Inspire says, Great perspective. I am looking at the internalization of negative thought and how we unconsciously take it out on others.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Now to Dr. Tachi. Back to
Yes.
her saying that, but I agree that race
Yeah.
is a social construct and therefore not real, but doesn't it become real because people agree that it is a real thing? Like
Sure.
like with currency, it's our agreement of its worth.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm going to use again, let me take the exit. Let me take the exit and then come back onto the freeway. Okay. So look, because it's a little philosophical, this comment, and my answer has to be philosophical. That has to match the level of it. It's that, so I'm a Black man and I'm in Quebec, and I'm an Anglophone, okay? But I'm only an Anglophone when I speak, okay? So when I'm in my home and if I'm speaking in English and everyone's comfortable with me speaking in English, I don't even know if I'm an Anglophone. I think I'm more of just a person in the culture of my home, okay? The Anglophone is only an Anglophone when they're confronted with different languages, or they only bear the consequences of their Anglophoneness when they're confronted by the other, okay? The same thing with Blackness is that if I leave my home and I see, and someone has not everybody, because there's only a minority of racists, really. To be completely honest, there's a very small amount of white people that are racist. It's not most white people, although all white people benefit from it. There's a small minority of them that cause the majority of the problems. If I happen to run into that 10% person or the person that's part of that minority of racists, and they don't like me because of my Blackness, that only happened because I met them. I only experienced that racial event because I met them. If I consume the media that's going to not like Black people, that nervous system reaction that I had only took place because I consumed that media. But if I'm chilling in my home, and again, I'm eating my oxtail, my curry goat, okay, and I'm all right listening to some Taurus Riley on the radio, okay, like yo, if I'm feeling good in my home, I don't care. You can't call me what you think. I'm gonna feel as awesome as possible, okay? So racism then is a context dependent thing. Is that if I'm at home and I internalize the messages that are terrible outside, or I look at the mirror and see a Black person looking back at me, and then I'm like, oh, well, my skin is too dark, my hair is too this and too that. If I internalize the oppression, that's the problem. And what I'm trying to say is that when we recognize that the problem is the internalization of the oppression rather than the Blackness itself, then it changes. But again, I have clients that will meet with me that believe, because I had a client a few years back, they said that the reason why they were meeting with me was because they believed that Black women are not, I think I might have spoken about this on the show, but I'll say it again. They believe that Black women are not attractive. And so this is a belief that's in her mind, but she learned it from a social structure. I had to teach her that, wait a second, that belief is not your own. You can actually change your belief. And she changed her belief. And now, happy to report, she's in a loving relationship now. And this is something that changed because we targeted the trauma that was underlying the beliefs that she got because of these repetitive experiences with terrible people in the past. So what I'm trying to say is that race is real, okay, but not really. It's real because, of course, there's an overrepresentation of Black people that are arrested in the United States because our communities are policed more. But it doesn't mean that because race is real that we're committing more crimes. It just means that they're policing us more. So they're going to find more crimes because they're not policing the same amount of suburban places. When they're going to say that Black people do more drugs, they're forgetting there's an opioid crisis in the United States. And it's not just linked to just poor people. These are white people. This is why it's an opioid crisis and there's a big response, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm trying to say is that generally people are just generally the same. But the society sometimes is going to use the ordinal classification of saying some people are worth more than others. And if we buy into that game, we are going to blame ourselves for our trauma. We are going to do victim blaming. And we will say that I am bad because I am Black. So I have to tell my clients that you are Black because you are beautiful. You are beautiful because you are Black. We have to challenge that narrative. And at the same time, we can understand that there are these overrepresentations. There's more social justice work to be done. Don't buy into their game. They're going to try to make it seem as if we need to play offense and defense, is what I'm trying to say. That's how we win.
All right. Now, question: did I hear your son in the background?
You could have.
Yes, I heard a little. I'm going. Okay. So you know what? What we're gonna do? Let me just some. Okay.
He was saying his agreement. He was just yelling like,
okay.
Yeah.
So frequency event promotion says, David, what you're speaking about is the transformation of the ocular lens. I'd love to connect with you. Returning project that brought 300 racialized young men together. I'll connect via Dr.
Let's
Vibe.
do it. Let's do it.
He also says, love the switch of tone, volume, and cadence. Big up.
Thank you.
Dr. Chachi says, great answer. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And Hayton says, David, your obvious joy for your work you do is so very inspirational.
Yes.
So what we're going to do, because your son is not 100%, and I believe in family first, unless family, you have any more questions or comments, we're going to start winding it down from now. Because also David's a little sleep deprived, and even when he's sleep deprived, he's still bringing fire. So, any final comments do you have for our family today, sir?
Well, so once again, I do want to say that so I'm the author of 4 books. The first book is Anti-Racist Psychotherapy, Confronting Systemic Racism and Healing Racial Trauma. This book will address that question about countertransference. I've spoken about it extensively in this book. The second book, I don't have it. Unfortunately, it's somewhere that's not here. But trust me, I'm not lying. I'm actually the author of a second book. The second book is called Black Meditation, 10 Practices for Self-Care, Mindfulness, and Self-Determination. It's a book that's designed to help Black people. If you need an audiobook, some people said they like my voice. Thank you. All credits due to the DNA of my parents, though. Mm-hmm. But if you want to hear meditations that are designed to help a person to improve their racial consciousness, Black Meditation is the book for you. The third book is Racial Trauma Recovery, Healing Our Past Using Rhythm and Processing. This is the integrative therapeutic framework that I developed because I felt there was a lack of an understanding of the importance of being able to assess for complex trauma with people who experience racial trauma. And so that means that Black people are not getting the therapy that they need. And it also means that there is a better way of being able to do this. And so in collaboration with partners that I have internationally, I've developed a combination of strategies that help to do the work that I explained at the beginning of this talk. And the fourth book is, Black Mountain Fight for the Future. This is a science fiction novel that is a work of joy. Because again, I think that we can't just focus on the trauma. It's one side of the coin. We also have to focus on the infinite creativity that allowed us to still survive the MAFA, the transatlantic slavery, the chattel, the abuse, the systemic injustices, and the fact that we're still here. So all of these books are available on Amazon. You can also find them at Black bookstores. If they don't have them at the Black bookstore, please, I'll ask that you tell them, or I'll ask them to get them, not to order them.
Well, yes. Actually, you know what? Just out of curiosity, do you have the available in the Knowledge Bookstore? And
yes, I think Knowledge Bookstore has it. A different book list I know has 2 of my books.
Okay, a different book list. Okay, because got to make sure that all of them are there.
Please.
Just as we finish up our conversation, then, words of inspiration or suggestion to Blacks and those who love them when it comes to trauma.
Yeah, so it's really to know that the trauma that we've experienced is an event. And it's an event that probably happens in one of the chapters that are earlier on in the book of the history of who you're meant to be. But we don't know how the book ends, and there's no way of being able to advance the pages. What we need to do is to understand that these events are not necessarily the defining characteristics of our history. These are things that happen to us there, but we are not them. We are not our suffering. The suffering is just something that has happened to us. I also want to explain that there is no enemy that is within you. So when I hear people that will say that they don't like themselves, or that there's a part of them that is causing like problems in their lives, sometimes that part of you that is stuck, not an enemy, not being bad, not a bad part of you, but it's trying to process something a little differently. If we can heal that aspect of yourself, it can develop a different role in the rest of the story of your life. And this is what psychotherapy is designed to do. This is what rhythm and processing was created for. It was to help people to learn to love themselves, because all people deserve healing. All people deserve to know that that they are beautiful. And on a final note is that mental health should be a human right. The people who suffer the most typically are the people who can't afford psychotherapy.
Yep.
And because we're talking about the impact of society, I think society is the one that should bear the cost rather than the racial trauma survivor. Therefore, we need to also push to not only heal ourselves, but to make the government know that we need to find a way of making it so that mental health is covered, so that the people who need it most are the ones that are going to be able to receive it. Anti-racism is not just a mental exercise. This is a way of being able to upgrade the technology of our psychotherapy and also the capabilities of our society to be more humane and to be more equitable and ultimately to be more awesome, because we deserve it.
Would you then say that it costs society more not to deal or not to provide the mental health supports or the therapy supports than to provide the supports?
There we go. Very well said. Very well said.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. I feel
Thank
like
you.
I just at the bottom of your tall ladder.
No, we're flying, man. We're flying.
All right. Well, look,
we got wings, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Many blessings.
As always,
Many
thank
blessings.
you for what you have done, are done, and will be doing. When do you go to Michigan?
So I'm going to Michigan in January. It's going to be, I think, mid-January. And so,
okay, so this is the thing. So when we're speaking, you're going to continue the conversations in the new year.
100%. Let's go.
But we're on again next month. I think it's around the 18th, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes, December 18th. But looking forward to that. So don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And also, we're speaking the next time we're going to hear that your son is strong and rising.
Yes, he's healing. His immune system is getting stronger by the moment. But anyways, many blessings. Peace to everyone. Peace and love. And yeah.
Oh, and Jessica Carter says, thanks. Thank you, Jessica, for that. And we'll see you later. We're going to be chatting later as it is. Be well. And
Take
also
care.
she says, we'll say Ashe.
Ashe, man. Yeah, man. All right. Many blessings. Take care, everyone.
All right. There we go, family. Woo! Epic conversation. We would have went a little bit longer, but you know what? Family, and I wanted to make sure that, David's son gets better and he gives the time. David gives time to his son. So there we go. There we go. All right. That's it for today. A few more converse. Opal inspired, wonderful conversation. Thank you, David. Fitness IQ says amazing conversation. Thank you so much. All right. Before we shut it down for today, let me just do something here real quick. So a few things, as always, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show. Yes, the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Subscribe and hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And also follow Ryan on all these platforms too. Join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Please email me at dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. I'm going to actually, when I speak with David next, see if he can provide a reading list for the Morning Vibe Discord followers. And maybe we'll switch it into a newsletter because I know a lot of people here would like to say, what does David read? What is he reading? All right. And then also To advertise your business, product, or service, please, on any of the platforms that I host, please email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right, coming up on Friday's show, we have, who do we have on Friday? I know who we have. We have Wayne Harris for the last time this year, Financial First Fridays with Wayne Harris. And he's going to be talking about various things, but how to prepare yourself financially for 2024. Yes, you're almost done. Year is almost done, family. Like today, we're broadcasting what they call Cyber Monday. I just out of curiosity, is anyone doing any buying on Cyber Monday? Out of curiosity, because I was listening to reports that, was it on Black Friday, which was last Friday, sales were up from last year. And the two, I guess in the US, I guess MasterCard was doing some looking at the purchases. Clothing was the most popular item that was bought. And actually, geez, I don't know if I heard this. I heard the story this morning on NPR. I wonder, they said over the next few weeks, they said the best days to buy things. So on Cyber Monday, it seems to be the best day to buy electronics. And I think it's this Thursday, the best day to buy furniture. Now, this is US stats, not mine. So if I see the story, I'll post it in the Morning Vibe room. Okay. Is there anything else? Oh, vacuum. I don't know what. Fitness IQ, I'll show you a few posts. Okay, Fitness IQ, very nice. And then Fitness IQ says she's not buying anything on Cyber Monday. Okay, so you are emphatic about that. All right. What did you just put in here? I just saw something here. Oh, tomorrow is for flights. So it's Fitness IQ is if you want to get deals on flights, tomorrow's a good day. Yeah, November 28th, which is tomorrow. All right, Fitness IQ giving us some takes. All right, let's get to it. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. I think that's what I say. I forgot, but no problem. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Again, follow the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and also join the Morning Vibe Discord group because I'm going to start putting Morning Vibe Discord member content only for that group in there. All right. Love, faith, and respect. That's what it is. Excuse me. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. And let's just say a good word for David's son. All right. See ya.